time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Good morning, everyone. I am so happy to have you here again for the Maturepreneur podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Jeanette Anderson. And today I have one of my favorite people on the planet with me, Sam Bennett. So welcome, Sam. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. Hi, everybody.
Now, as you know, I will give you the official, background, the details behind Sam, but then we're going to dive into finding out some juicy tidbits that people might not guess about her and why she does what she does. And we're going to talk about her fabulous book, The 15-Minute Method, The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done. I know that all of you are busy with your lives. We're going to talk about busy and why it might have a little bit of BS in it and what we can do about that, and a bunch of other interesting and surprising topics. So let me tell you about Sam. Sam Bennett is the author of Get It Done, Start Right Where You Are, and most recently, The 15-Minute Method, The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done. A writer, speaker, actor, and creativity productivity specialist, she's the founder of therealsambennett.com, a company committed to helping overwhelmed creatives and frustrated overachievers get unstuck. Sam is also a popular course instructor on LinkedIn Learning with over 1 million class participants worldwide. Ooh, that's so cool. She lives in Connecticut, and you will find her online at www.therealsambennett.com or 15minutemethod.com. All right, so that's a little bit of the behind the scene, but that doesn't even scratch the surface of how cool you are. So I don't know where we met originally, probably one of your things or networking or something, I don't know. But I've read a couple of Sam's books, and most recently the 15-Minute Method. And it inspired me so much that I was like, okay, for sure, I have to get you on here. Did a class about it with you. And what I really love about you, Sam, is your authenticity and your vulnerability that is so incredibly strong, inspiring, and permission giving that I just love when people are like that. It's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And you've got so many cool accomplishments and things that you do and get done. And so I think that's what we're here today to discuss is how do we do that? How do we do that without burning out like a lot of overachievers do, without, getting bogged down or stuck in overwhelm or any of those other notions that people may have. So we're going to dive into that today. Before we get going, that's the official side. Tell us something no one knows about you.
Something no one knows about me.
Or would be surprised about if they learned because they couldn't
Yeah.
see bio.
Yeah, I mean, the people who are closest to me know that I'm super shy and super introverted. So even though I come across like super confident and like, oh yeah, always in a good mood and stuff, that's not true. That is not true. I love people, but I I love them more from far away.
Okay, well, and that's actually a really important point because you are in the public eye. You do and have done acting and stand-up comedy, or did you just write? I forget how.
I did improvisational comedy. I was with the Second
Improv,
City in
right?
Chicago, right?
Okay, and at a professional level, y'all. And she is a self-professed raging introvert kind of thing, and shy, and yet. And the reality is, I think it's either 76 or 72%. I can never remember the stat or where it came from. Of professional speakers are introverts. So if you are thinking that that's an impediment to you getting out there, sorry, just that excuse doesn't fly. All right, so let's dive into a little bit more about your why. Why do you do what you do? So first tell us what you do now in terms of what you do, but then the why is really, what is your purpose in life?
Yeah. So as you say, I spent most of my adult life and my childhood working as an actor, first in Chicago and then in Los Angeles. And I had one of those acting careers that went well enough that you didn't want to give up on it, but not so well as to be able to support a person. So that meant that I had a million different jobs and gigs and projects and shows and auditions and producing and all the running around like a crazy person. It was super fun, creatively very satisfying, financially disastrous. And along the way, I just got really interested in this question of how do highly creative people make decisions?
Mm.
When you could kind of do anything, right?
Hmm.
How do you know what to do?
Right.
When you've got your own business, how do you know how to promote it? Should you have a podcast like Jeanette? Should you write a book? Should you stand on the street corner with the sandwich board? Like, how do you know what to do? And that question has fascinated me. And for some reason, I have this brain that when I think those thoughts, I think, well, how would I figure that out? And so I started to come up with all these sort of worksheets and exercises and decision-making matrices and just ways to think about the things that there's no right way for,
Right. Okay.
right? There's no right way to be an entrepreneur. There's no right way to be an artist. There's no right way to be a parent or to be a friend,
Yeah.
right? There's just your way.
Hmm.
And it's one of the things I see a lot with entrepreneurs, and particularly with boomer entrepreneurs, is they'd really like a checklist. Like they'd really like to get an A+ at this. There's a big good girl streak there that's like, no, no, I really just tell me the right way to do it and I'll do those things. And believe me, if there was a checklist, well, you're either the kind of person who would absolutely just do it, or you're the kind of person who would turn it over and start doodling on the back of it.
Yes.
Be honest with yourself about which of those people you are.
Or if you're
Um,
really oppositionally defined, you'll do exactly the opposite of what the checklist says.
right, exactly. So, so that's I started teaching a course called Get It Done,
Hmm.
in a church basement in Van Nuys, California, to 11 people, and over time it just sort of grew. And in 2009, I started doing it full time, and I wrote the first book, and then it got endorsed by Seth Godin, which was amazing. I'm still not over that. Um, and it turns out that having a business is like the best art project of all time. So
It is.
I love it. And to go back to this question of why, and I think, it's a common misconception that people who are performers, that they're ego freaks, that they love the spotlight, that they love the applause. Like, I'm here to tell you it's not true. I mean, certainly some performers love the spotlight, love the applause, but some dentists love the spotlight and love the applause too. Like, that's not a industry specific thing. Mostly, like I said, we're just as shy as anybody is, but we have this weird compulsion to tell the story.
Mm.
Like, we have to, to me, the reason I'm an actor and the reason I'm a writer is because I'm a reader. Like, I
Mm.
learned to read very early. I loved reading. And it was a pretty short step from like, oh, I love this story, to, oh, I want to share this story. I want to act the story out. I want to be part of this story. And I
Mm.
think that's really the drive, and helping people write a new story for themselves is incredibly compelling.
Well, let's talk about that a little deeper. What is it about that that's meaningful to you? Helping people write a new story for themselves. So whether we call that reinvention, just being present to ourselves, like there's many components to that. What is it about it that's meaningful for you?
Well, not to put too fine a point on it, but it's because I'm acutely aware that we die.
Okay. Yep.
Um, I don't, I don't know why, but that's something I've always been very aware of, and sort of fascinated by. I mean, we're not here for an unlimited amount of time,
Mhm.
and we do not know how much time we have. Right? I'm always a little morbidly fascinated by the people who are like asleep in their bed and a plane crashes on their house, or they're walking down the street and they're hit by an icicle. Like, all that, like, what? They're just like having a day, and then they're just gone. Like that's chilling, you know? So this idea that there is a voice within you, there is work within you, there is a story within you, there is a something inside of you that only you can do, only you can bring, only you can do it or say it or make it in this way. And somehow we let everything else take priority.
Mm.
We let everything else get in the way. We let doing everything else for everybody else take up all of our time and then say, well, I would write my book, but I don't have the time. Well, I would have my business have a bigger reach, but I'm too busy. Well,
Mhm.
I would do these things that light me up, that bring me joy, but I'm too overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And honestly, the idea of standing there at the pearly gates going like, well, I know I had these gifts and talents to share with the world, but I just really got, my mother wasn't very supportive and my boyfriend wasn't really a fan. Like, you don't want to be that guy,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
You want to show up at the end, used up and have people standing around your memorial. You want people standing around your memorial saying, well, she was incredibly well behaved.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
never upset anyone.
Yeah,
He
she
told
never
the
rocked the
line every
boat.
single time.
Yeah.
Boy, her towel grout was clean. I mean,
Yeah,
this is not what we're here for.
exactly. And I love that phrase used up. Like I want to, I think I saw a poem somewhere. I want to slide into death, used up and spent and et cetera, et cetera. Absolutely. Um, so, so just as an aside, completely random because of your conversation around death. If we're, some think we're approaching a singularity where we will live forever. Certainly, people being born now are purportedly going to live to 130, so 65 is mid age. Would you ever want to live forever?
Um, I never gave it any serious consideration. Would I want to live forever? I don't think so. I mean, the thing about death is everyone who's been says it's great,
Okay. So
right? I
you're curious
mean,
about that. All right.
yeah, so I'm curious. So everyone, like everyone who's been goes, oh my God, incredible peace. Oh my God, this feeling of total love. Oh my, it sounds pretty wonderful. And in my mind, I always go, well, you remember what it was like before you were born. I imagine it's a lot like that.
Mhm. Okay.
Um, so yeah, I think I have more curiosity about death, but I'm not in any hurry.
Yeah. I'm just curious because you get quite a bit of variety of answers on that. And I love this planet. I love learning and I love the infinite number of things that I want to do. And so like more time, yes, please. But on the other hand, I'm also curious about and then what? And then what? And then what? So yeah, I'm just curious. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what has been, because we're going to talk about your book because it's fascinating and has so many practical tips. And I do want to give like the majority of the show to that. But you've also had a really fascinating journey in terms of your business. And because you're a creative, you do business differently, right? Partially reflected in the books that you've written. So tell me a little bit about what was the biggest challenge for you when you made the leap into being a business person? What was the hardest transition or thing that you didn't might have surprised you?
I had to do a lot of work around money mindset. Really, and this is, uh, it's really where the personal development stuff, rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
Like, do I believe that the universe is infinitely abundant?
Hmm.
And if so, am I acting that way?
Right.
Do I really understand in my bones that there is an infinite amount of money out there?
Hmm.
There's an infinite number of ideal clients out there. I mean, maybe there is an actual final number, but I'm never going to get to the end of it. So it might as well be infinite, right? Do I understand that my desire to be seen to do a good job
Yeah.
and be a good girl, I remember one time pretty early on, I was trying to fill a workshop and it was filling some, but not as much or as fast as I wanted it to. And I really was starting to feel sort of indignant and sort of resentful of like, like I've done all the things. Why aren't the people coming to? And like I did, I was like, okay, Samantha, you're having a problem. This is a moment for self-inquiry. Like, let's go be real with ourselves. And I realized I had this image of myself of sitting there with my little checklist of like, look at all the things I've done. I've done all the things. I've checked off all the lists. I should get the result I want. Buh, for me.
I had
Like, Sam,
feeling like that not long ago.
right? I mean, but in entrepreneurship, nobody cares how hard you work.
Yes.
You don't get paid for hard work. You get paid for results,
Yes.
right? And a job, you get paid for showing up,
Yes.
right? And what's the big joke about a job, right? They pay you, they pay you just enough to not quit, and you do just enough work to not get fired,
Right.
right? And they're just paying you for your availability, basically, 8 hours a day. It was one of the problems I always had because I had some great day gigs, but I was always like, really? You need me here till 5? Because I'm done at like 11:30. Like, do I have to just hang around the office? Okay, I guess. Um, so this understanding of like, oh, right, it doesn't matter that I think I've done all the right things and that I should be getting a result. That's not how this game is played.
Right.
It may be that I'm going to need to do 10 times more work than I thought I was going to have to, or maybe 10 times less.
Mm.
And after a good think, I called up a friend of mine who had a very successful business of her own with a very complimentary audience. And I asked her if she'd be willing to do an affiliate mailing for me,
Mhm.
which she was. And I filled up the course and got to share the wealth with my friend, and happy result for everyone. One phone call.
Mhm. Talk a little bit more about the 10 times less, because that is a component of what you convey in your books and so forth. So, because a lot of times, and especially the boomer generation, we're raised with you got to work hard. Your
Right.
value comes from working hard, right?
Yes.
My value came from being a survivor. That's what I, learned early on, came up in lots of drama and trauma and challenge. And so survival and value got linked for me, which of course meant that I had to make everything fucking hard to just survive it so that I could, be valuable. So how do we shift that thinking? Because that's a really ingrained component of people who are a little older is work hard, work harder. If it's not working, work harder.
Right, right, right. Well, step one is just acknowledge the brainwashing, right? It
Yeah.
just acknowledge that story. Oh, I'm trapped in a story in which I feel like I have to work hard in order to have worth, in order to get what I want, in order to be seen as worthy. And to be fair to all of us, it's part of our makeup as humans. I mean, we're tribal animals. We are designed to live in a group.
Mhm.
And and we know that our survival depends on the group, right? Our animal brain knows we cannot survive alone. So as much as we may wish everyone would just go away every once in a while, we're very aware of the group. We're very aware of the good opinion of the group. We want to be seen as contributive. We want to be seen as helpful. We want to be seen as useful. We want to be seen as, not a burden on the group. Like, that whole feeling of like, oh, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to, right. That's who you are as an animal.
Yes.
That's just part of your software. So it's all perfectly understandable. People are like, oh, I'm such a people pleaser. Right. Yes, by design.
Yes.
Job, right? So that's a lot of it, is just to acknowledge like, oh, okay, there's both some programming here, there's a narrative here, there's a system of rewards. Certainly school and work likes you to, like, do the things, and yes, you do, you get rewarded for working hard. But what that causes is for people to completely ignore or discount the things and areas in which they have natural gifts,
Mm.
right? Your zones of creative genius, right? And everyone has multiple zones of creative genius.
Mhm.
Um, and let me just step aside here to say creative is not the same as artistic.
Mhm.
Creative and artistic are two different words that mean two different things. Not everyone is artistic. Everyone is creative.
Yeah, I love
Creativity,
that distinction.
right?
It's
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
So often people go, oh no, I'm not creative, I'm not creative. Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. If you've ever solved a problem differently than anybody else has ever solved the problem, congratulations. You're a creative genius.
Mhm.
Um, and but it's easy to ignore. So if you're looking for what your zone of creative genius might be, um, it's the thing that you've always been really good at,
Mhm.
that you've always been really interested in,
Mhm.
that you have sort of a knack for, that if somebody woke you up at 3 in the morning and said, hey, we're gonna go do XYZ, you want, and you'd be like, yeah, where are my shoes? I'm up, right? What's that? And maybe it's something that your family and friends are a little quizzical about. They're like, wait, you're paying how much to go to an exhibit about what? You're traveling to where to do what? And you're like, no, I like it. It's fun for me. That's what I want to do. Um, that is something to do with your zone of creative genius. Um, and again, we tend to not notice it because it's always just been such a part of who we are. It comes to us so naturally, and we think, well, everybody's like that. Everybody's good at that. Everybody has no,
Mhm.
no, they're not. And you may think like, oh, your zone of creative genius might be in that, you're the person who always knows just what to say to somebody to make them feel better.
Mhm.
You're the person who just gives the best compliments. You think, well, that's just being a nice person. Everybody knows how to do that. No, they don't. No, they don't.
Right.
And you could turn that gift into greeting cards. You could turn that gift into being a coach. You could turn that gift into art. You could turn that gift into writing plays. There's no limit to how you could apply that gift. You could also just apply it as being the friend that everybody loves the most because you make everybody feel so good. Like there's, there's no limit to how you can apply the gift, but to understand like, oh, this is your God-given gift. You didn't ask for this,
Mhm.
right? You didn't ask to be this sarcastic or this funny or this literate or this incisive or this whatever you are. Uh, and what do we do with gifts? We give them, right? We give them to the world.
Mhm.
And there's a little flip, I think, especially for people with creative and spiritual gifts, where they feel like, well, it's so easy for me, I feel weird charging for it. Right? It comes so naturally to me, I feel like I can't, it's not really right to charge. And again, that's that premium on, oh, it only really counts if you work for it.
Right.
Right? I certainly had that conversation 100 times with my parents growing up where they're like, well, Samantha, of course you got good grades in English and drama, but what about French and calculus? You
Yeah.
know, now that I'm 57, I can look back and go, you know what? French and calculus was never going to happen.
Yes.
It didn't matter how hard I worked at that. And believe I did work hard. I really did. But my brain is not designed to do that. Everything I learned about French and calculus, I had to really learn the hard way. And I've made a living my entire adult life with English and drama. So,
Yes. Exactly.
but there
Well,
was this belief of like, just because it's easy for you, like it doesn't count.
yes.
Like, no, that was these are my natural God-given gifts. It counts 10 times more. Like, why are we not focusing on that?
Yes. Yeah. I sometimes say to people that our purpose or whatever we want to call that lies in the path of our pleasure. And it often gets dismissed as, oh, that's too easy or too, whatever we want to call that. But I think that it's a really big clue to, where the ease is, where the natural default is, where the abilities are, where the creativity is within us, the creator that we are. Um, you
And
know,
it's wait, just to underline it. And it's why you can charge 10 times more than everybody else,
yeah,
right? Because you're going to work faster, you have more insights, you work more intuitively, you get better results. You're designed for it. I mean, if I'm going to go have surgery, who do I want? The surgeon who worked really hard in school to study and grind and really get it down, or the person who's got a natural gift for healing?
yes, right. Exactly. And we do need to shift that thinking from it's easy, therefore I should give it away to it's easy, therefore I should charge 10 times more because I'm so good and gifted at it and it comes so naturally. So just want to go back briefly because this is such a big problem for a lot of people, especially women who go into business. Um, Certainly lots of people in our generation. Um, of the money mindset because we grew up with so many beliefs around money. How did you shift those? Like what resources, tools, what did you do that helped you really shift that?
I did everything. I did everything. I did all the courses. I read all the books. I did all the exercises. Um, I I knew I had to actively retrain myself because I was really good at being broke.
Yeah.
I was really good at being broke. I could make a nickel stretch forever. I can do things with beans and rice you would not believe. I thrifted all my clothes. I handmade all my gifts. I mean, I made a virtue out of it. I
Yes.
thought it was a testament to my, depth and purity as an artist and my non-participation in this whole, commercialization corporate culture thing that I was so good at being so broke. Um, when all I was really doing was just making my life really hard for myself. I was really tired all the time.
Oh,
Um, and there was that too, right? Busy was, my second favorite narcotic,
yeah.
right? If I'm busy all the time, then the only feeling I have is tired. And I
Yes.
don't have to face some of the other feelings, like I'm unhappy in my marriage, or
Mm.
I'm unfulfilled in this area, or whatever. Um, some of the practical things I did was I started putting money everywhere. $1, $5, $20, like in every pocket, in every nook and cranny, every desk drawer. So it just sort of felt like every time I looked, there was more money coming at me.
Love that.
And this is something you can do with like 50 bucks. I mean, you don't have to spend very much to do that. Um, but it just reinforces like, oh, right, there's money everywhere. There's money everywhere. Every time I turn around, there's more money.
Yeah.
Um, I really questioned a lot of my deeper beliefs. I mean, I also had, not only did I have judgments about how virtuous I was by not spending money, but I also had judgments about other people and how not virtuous they were by spending money.
Right.
But when I got a little deeper into that question, again, you have these moments of absolute honesty with yourself of like, okay, what do you really believe about this? And I realized, oh, really? I don't care.
Mm.
I don't care what other people are spending money on. You want to spend $50,000 on a wedding dress? Knock yourself out. I think it's stupid, but it's not my wedding.
Right.
Nobody asked me. Who cares what my opinion is?
Yes.
Right? So all this, virtue signaling we do about like, well, I would never, blah, 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 I would never spend that kind of money on a car. I would never spend that kind of money on jewelry. So what? No one's asking you to,
Right.
right?
And if you want to, it's okay. Right.
It's okay. And how many jobs does that $50,000 wedding dress provide?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? What's the ripple effect of somebody who's spending that kind of money? They're hiring a lot of help. They're paying for a lot of people's kids' education.
Yeah.
They're contributing kind of at a higher level than those of us who aren't, right?
Exactly. I really appreciate that because I'm also in the process right now of expanding to my next level because it's a kind of a never ending, I call it contextual expansion, right? And so I'm having conversations with people about getting venture capital and I'm trying to get $10,000 and they're telling or to 200,000 and they're telling me, oh no, that is going to be so much harder than 2 million. You got to open at 2 million. And I'm like, okay, this is a kick in the context, and it's time for me to open my arms wider to receive more and do the work to shift the limitations within me, to shift the self-perception, to shift the notions around what that's going to require, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a fascinating conversation, and I think it is some of the things that you touch on in your book as well. And I love that you just kind of slipped in the busy as a narcotic conversation. It was and is one of those really kind of you look at it and you go, well, yeah, duh. But having not thought about it in that way before, it's a really profound insight, and is something again that you talk about in the book. So just a couple more things on your business, and then I want to shift to the book. In terms of your business, you've done a lot of things. You've recently been on the cover of Aspire magazine. You've written plays that were produced on Broadway, right?
In Los Angeles, yeah.
Los Angeles. Okay, I
We're-
wasn't sure. Um, you've had a lot of different success in a lot of ways. You've written 3 books, more to come. What do you think is the biggest contributor to your success of all the various things that you've done? If you were starting over and we're going to do the greatest or least amount of work for the greatest return, what would it be in hindsight for you? not for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that has served me the best is there's just a lot of things that in some ways, pure ignorance helped me. Like, I just didn't know that what I was doing was unusual. I didn't know that it was supposed to be hard.
Right.
I just sort of did it the way it made sense to me to do it. And then everybody's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm like, okay. I mean,
So, like, was getting Seth Godin to on your book, was that one of those kinds of things?
that was just magic. I don't honestly, I genuinely don't know how that happened. I had written the book.
Yeah.
The publishers had asked me for endorsements, and so of course I went to all my Hollywood friends. So Ed O'Neill was nice enough to endorse the book. Rachel Dratch. I I emailed my friend Steve. Can I swear on this? Is this okay?
Yeah.
So I emailed a number of my friends, including Steve Carell, and I said, hi, I hope this isn't too star fucky of me, but I'm wondering if you might endorse my book. Like, I mean, it was so embarrassing. It was such a horrible thing to have to do. Like, it's so embarrassing. There was no way for me to do it. That's one of the examples of like, the only way I could think to do it was to just call it right out and go like,
Yes.
yes, this is me exploiting our relationship because you're super famous and I'm not.
Yes.
Nobody this Sam.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that kind of honesty is the kind of thing that reaches people, human being to human being. So it works really well.
right, exactly. And Steve, in fact, did not endorse the book. He actually had a different commitment at the time, and he couldn't. He was very sweet about it. Uh, and so the publisher was like, "Yeah, okay, that's very cute that your Hollywood friends are interested, but we need like some real people." I was like, "Oh, okay." Like people in the field, like, "Oh, okay." And they said, "So who's on your wish list?" And I said, "I don't know." Chip and Dan Heath, Seth Godin, Chip and Dan Heath, Jesus, I think was my list. I was like, I don't, who's available? And so they reached out to Seth for me, and the next thing, literally the next thing I knew, I mean, it happened. The turnaround was almost immediate. He wrote this
Oh,
beautiful endorsement, and then he reviewed my book on his website, and then I finally got a chance to meet him. I didn't know him, and I met him. He was doing a book signing at an event that I was actually speaking at. He was keynoting. I was also speaking on
yeah.
much further down the roster, but we were both speaking at the same event. And it was the only way I could figure out to meet him was to stand in line to get him to sign a book. And I bought my book for him to sign. And I walk up and he looks right at me and he goes, "Hey, Sam." And I'm like, "Don't freak out. Don't burst into tears. Don't freak out. Don't burst into tears." And I go, "Hi." And he goes, "I bought like 4 copies of your book already." I'm like, now I am freaking out and bursting into tears. But he could not have been more lovely or more generous. Um, a couple of years later, I was interviewing my friend Linda Sievertson has a podcast called the Beautiful Writers Podcast, which if you are a writer, you should absolutely tune into this podcast because she talks to some of your favorite writers and about writing. It's really fun. So, and she always has a co-host. So it's like her and Glennon Doyle interviewing Elizabeth Gilbert.
Wow.
It's super cool. So she had me as her co-host to interview Seth.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, it was so neat. And she said, "Okay, so, Seth, you were kind enough to give Samantha an incredible endorsement for her book. I'm sure a lot of our listeners would love to know how they themselves could get such a thing from you or from somebody, high up on their list." And Seth said, this is like engraved on my soul. He said, "I did not give Samantha an endorsement. She earned it by writing an amazing book. So
Mm.
if you would like an endorsement from me or someone like me, step one would be read Samantha's book and ask yourself, is my book as good or better than Sam's?"
Oh, wow. Great
I
advice.
had to turn off my mic. I had to mute my mic because I was freaking out so bad. Okay. Don't ugly cry on camera, Sam. Don't ugly cry on camera. But people are
I love
people can be astoundingly generous. I mean, it's really, and especially people like Seth who just do so much good in the world. It's really,
Well, and we tend to attract what we are, right? Like you were saying earlier about, being who the difference that we're meant to be in the world. One of the lines that I often use is that to be the difference that only you can be in the world is what
Yes.
we're here to do. And you were talking earlier about being the creative, genius that only you can be because you have that unique combination. That's what we bring to any business that we do or any difference that we make. So that's why I'm so passionate about making sure people know that who you are as you are, have value, get at it, like pitter patter. Let's go. So let's.
And I want to speak anybody who's freaking out about like, I don't know if my work is amazing. I don't know if it's like, what I'm saying is not, your work does not have to be perfect. Nobody's work is perfect, and you trying to make it perfect is just you getting in your own way all the time. The voice you need to cultivate, right up there with there's an unlimited amount of money, there's an unlimited amount of clients, so let's go get them, is this, do I know how to make this better right now?
Mm,
Right? Because I've got the same voice in my head going, this is shit, this is crap, no one's going to care about this. That's everyone has that voice. I've
mm,
worked with Academy Award winners and Emmy Award winners and people who are super famous, and they also have that exact same, I don't think this is a good idea, I don't think this is going to work, I don't know if I can do it. All that self-doubt is just part of the creative process. Like, embrace it as part of the unfolding. um and so for me, the switch I make in my brain is, okay, this may be crap, no one may care about it, that may be true, do I know how to make this better right now?
mhm.
And sometimes the answer is, oh, I do. I can take out some of the adverbs. I can take out all the adverbs and most of the adjectives. I can strengthen the verbs. I could make this funnier. I could make this a better story. I could make this punchier. Other times it's like, I don't know how to make it better right now. I
Mhm.
don't think it's good enough, but I don't know how to make it better right now. Great. Move on.
Right. Great. And or get support with having some perspective on it because we're often too close. It's right on the end of our nose. So
This
having
is why God made editors,
yeah,
right?
editors, coaches, therapists, the people who help us get insight beyond our own limited perspective at times, right?
I don't know how anybody does it, particularly starts as a solopreneurship, starts their own business without a coach. I've paid, I can't even begin to count,
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
uh, over the years in coaching, and I would do it 10 times over. I mean,
Yes.
you just don't know what you don't know, and you can't see what you can't see.
Yes.
And um, and honestly, investing at a really high level changed me.
Yeah.
I don't think I had ever taken myself that seriously before.
Hmm.
There was something about investing at that level and saying to myself, no, I need to be in that room. I need to learn from that person. I need to be with all those in that community. I need to do this work in this context. And here's my American Express card, and I have to make this pay for itself before the bill comes because I don't have it. Like, it's not like I had, oh, I've got a 401k, or, oh, I've got, no, I didn't have anything.
Yes.
But I knew I needed it. And it like galvanized me. Like, it like sent a message to my inner self where like, it sort of felt like all my little inner selves were like, oh shit, she's serious.
Exactly.
We're really doing this.
Get on this.
We
Um,
better get on this. And it worked. I mean, it turns out I respond incredibly well to intense financial pressure.
uh,
Now, that's not true of everybody,
yes.
but if it's true for you, then take advantage of that. Commit yourself big time, and then watch yourself make up the difference.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things you said in there is I need to be in this group of people who are at this level. There's a lot to be said for being very conscious about choosing who we surround ourselves with at that next level because we are the sum of the five closest people to us kind of thing, and we tend to stay at that level. We norm at that level. So we really do need to up level who we hang out with
Yeah.
if we want to up level our results. So you mentioned perfectionism just briefly, and you talk about that in the book. How does your 15-minute method, which will, first of all, what is the 15-minute method and what inspired you to
Right.
write the book? But then how does that strategy defeat perfectionism?
Yeah. So here's the 15-minute method. Everybody got their pen? Okay, here we go. Spend 15 minutes a day, every single day, doing something that matters to you. Ah,
I know. It actually really truly is a summary of the book.
that's the whole
There's a
banana.
whole
And
lot
it's
more depth behind it, but that really
right.
truly is it.
But
Okay.
that really, really is it. And it's because what I notice is, like I said, we get everything done for everybody else all day, but the things that really matter to you personally, that you know would really make a difference to your body, to your mind, to your soul, to your life, to your house, to your family, like to your most intimate circle, doesn't happen. It stays in a drawer. It doesn't even make it onto the list.
Mhm.
And so so I just want to cut through all the excuses,
Yes.
right? Because what I notice over and over and over again is that, first of all, it is astonishing how much you can actually get done in 15 minutes.
Mhm.
It is astonishing how much you can get done in 15 minutes every day for a week or a month or a year or 6 years or 66 years,
Mhm.
right? And it does kind of hopscotch right over your perfectionism because it's 15 minutes. How perfect is it going to be? Plus,
Right.
you're going to do it again tomorrow. So, just get in there. And like for many people, I think it's sort of it makes sense to the rational brain. Like, oh, yes, if I practice my ukulele every day for 15 minutes,
Mhm.
in not too long of a time, I will become a better ukulele player, right?
Mhm.
Does the world need more ukulele players? I don't know, but sure, yes, let's say yes. If that's what's on your heart to do, then yes. 15 minutes of prayer and meditation, 15 minutes of deep breathing, 15 minutes of sitting in the garden with the sun on your face,
Mhm.
15 minutes of writing. I mean, if you write for 15 minutes a day, you can get out 200, 250 words. Well, in 200 days, that's 50,000 words. That's a book.
Mm. Mhm.
So where were you 200 days ago, and would you like to have a book right now?
Mhm.
Um, Doodling, drawing, and then I know some people are like, "Well, Sam, my project's too big. There's no way. There's no way I can break it down to 15-minute things. I need to, I need to clean out the entire garage. That's not going to happen in 15 minutes." I'm like, well,
Mhm.
let's think about that though. Again, let's get real with ourselves. Could you make yourself a cup of something warming, let's say, and just go out to the garage for 15 minutes and just be with the garage. Just contemplate the garage. See what the garage has to say to you. Breathe it in. Don't do anything, just be there with it. And it may be that at, minute 12, you go, hold on, those 8 boxes belong to my cousin Jeffrey. Like, Jeffrey, come get these boxes. Right? Well, now you cleaned out a whole corner of the garage, you know how to do anything. And maybe the next day you go in for another 15 minutes. And you look in one of those Rubbermaid totes that you've got standing around and it's filled with holiday stuff. And you go, so you put a sign on it that says holiday.
Yeah.
And then you stick it to the back because you only need that stuff once a year.
Yes.
And maybe the next day you take that broken bicycle and you roll it out to the curb and you put a sign on it that says free broken bicycle, right? In this fashion, you can, in fact, clear out your entire garage in 15 minutes a day.
Mhm.
And then maybe you get to a point where you're like, hey, you know what, everybody, let's, kids, everybody, we're going to spend 4 hours, we're going to knock this out, whatever it is, sure. You may get to a point where it's going to need some more concentrated effort. But again, even just the 15 minutes a day of decluttering this much of your closet,
Right.
of going through this much of your filing. I'll tell you, Jeanette, I have a thing, I sell it on my website. It's called the Daily Practicum. Every weekday for 15 minutes a day at 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern, 5 British summertime, we all get on Zoom. Hello, wave, start the timer for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
15 minutes later, timer goes off, and a gallery of faces with this post-orgasmic glow look up at me. They say, Sam, I did it. I made that phone call. I've been putting off making that phone call for 6 weeks. I made that phone call. Sam, I did it. I wrote my friend. She just lost her husband and I didn't know what to say, but I just did it. I just wrote her the note and now it's done. And it's amazing. People are constantly amazed. And but I'm not amazed. I'm delighted, but I'm not amazed because again, being in community really helps.
Yes.
We call it body doubling or parallel play when you know you're in a space with everybody else is working, like
Yes.
buckle down and work. It's a limited time frame. It's 15 minutes. How hard is it going to be, right? It's on your calendar.
Yes.
you've paid for it, you've invested in it,
Yes.
right? That also helps. I've got people who buy the subscription, and some people are there, every single time. Some people are there intermittently. Some people are never there, but the fact that it shows up on their calendar every day makes them do it in their own time,
Yes.
right? So notice the things that motivate you.
Yeah.
Is it the buddy system? Is it paying for a coach or a program or something like the daily practicum? Is it, what is it? So that you won't let yourself off the hook, because that's the trick of it, is you think like, well, it's just 15 minutes. I could just skip it. Like,
Right.
yeah, you could.
Yes. So some of those examples that you gave would occur to me as a should, like I should be cleaning
Mhm.
the garage or whatever. But you're talking about doing something that's meaningful to you or that you want to do. What if we don't know what we want to do? What if there's too many things we want to do?
Yeah. So I would make a list I would spend my first 15 minutes making a list of all those things.
Okay.
And then maybe every day you pick one and try it,
Right.
say, okay, this week is this one, and next week is the next one. Um, and give yourself a little time and space to experiment. It can be a beautiful thing to try something and get a little bit of the way in and go, oh, this isn't really working for me. I'm not really loving this. Um, and while my personal agenda is always that people do things that light them up,
Yeah.
right? Because again, then we also then get this beautiful spillover effect, right? The whole rest of the day, you get that delightful, I don't know what the really positive version of smugness is,
Yeah.
but that very positive, the same feeling you get like when you work out first thing in the morning, or you have sex first thing in the morning, you spend all day being like, that's right, I'm awesome. How are you?
Yeah. Have all that bag of chips. Yeah.
Right? That's right. We like to cultivate that feeling of like really good self-satisfaction. Because if you can't be pleased with yourself, who can you be pleased with, really?
Exactly.
Um, um, yeah, and and sometimes, I think take 15 minutes and stare at a blank piece of paper.
Mm,
15 minutes of enforced boredom never hurt a person.
right.
And when was the last time you sat there for 15 minutes without reaching for your phone?
Mm, yeah. It's been a long time.
It's
Okay.
been a long time.
Yeah.
And now we're getting into a habit of doing things, right, to make these 15-minute things that, again, that nourish and replenish us, that actually do recharge us. Because we like to think that the doom scrolling late at night or the playing of the Candy Crush or whatever, like, oh no, this is my rest time, this is my me time. But it's not really restful and it's not really feeding you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
like it's like a dinner of potato chips, right? I mean,
It's
it's
not
it's not it's
nutritious.
not helping. It's not helping. Whereas, but 15 minutes of stretching and moving, every health and medical professional in the world will tell you that 15 minutes a day of moving your body around is going to have an exponential effect on your health and well-being.
Right.
15 minutes of singing, 15 minutes of playing with the kids, 15 minutes of communing with your animals, 15 minutes of gardening, 15 minutes of, taking care of houseplants, whatever it is that, again, that you love, that you can look back on the day and go, well, at least I did that. Did that. That felt good.
Yes. Yeah. So there's something in the book that you call grumpy magic. Speaking of not always being, happy and upbeat and so forth, or finding what we love and so on. What is grumpy magic?
So grumpy magic is actually a little process that I detail in the book of like how to move forward on things when you're feeling really stuck and grumpy. But mostly I just want to remind people that there is such a thing as grumpy magic, that you do not have to be all love and light. I love my brothers and sisters in the personal development industry, but there is a fair amount of oppressive optimism, and this kind of relentless positivity that is frankly exhausting. So I think
I just want to say oppressive optimism is the kind of phrase that makes me adore you because there's so much depth in it, so much kind of contrarian thinking that goes behind that. I just love it. Anyways, carry on.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's true. And sometimes things just kind of suck, and that's okay. Life is your reward for being a good person is not a stress-free life. It's not a life with no problems in it. Nobody gets that.
Mm,
Sorry, nobody gets that. Um, so, and I notice that pessimists get rich.
mhm.
I notice that people with a poor disposition have happy marriages. I notice that grumpy people make incredible parents. Like, it's not a prerequisite that you be all like super duper chipper ripper about every dip dan thing.
Yeah.
If you are like that, great. If you're naturally sunshiny, terrific. But I've lived with depression and anxiety my whole life. Like, that yippee skippy is very hard for me to get to. So I am naturally optimistic, sometimes to the point of, I think, a level of certain level of toxicity. I'm always like, it'll work. It'll work this time. I'm sure it will.
The past 12 times notwithstanding.
The past 12 times notwithstanding. But yeah, so I just want it's possible to make magic in your life without having the best possible attitude on all times.
Yeah, it's not, doesn't require unicorns and rainbows all the time to actually be productive and to move forward. So let's just talk a little bit more about being stuck, and then I wanted to let people know how they can get more of you. So you say that if we're stuck in life, it isn't about what we're doing or not doing. What's it about?
What did I say about that, Jeanette? I am
Well, you see, it's not about how we use our time, right? So being stuck is not about a matter of time and how we're using it. So what do we need to think of differently in order to get unstuck?
Yeah, I mean, we're such habit-seeking creatures, right? I mean, what's the old phrase? Like, we love it when it's different, but it's just not the same. So we need to find ways to like just move the dial just a little bit. And it's remarkable how small of an adjustment can make us feel really great.
Mhm,
So to really take a look at your habits, to take a look at where are you spending your time, what stories are you running over and over and over again, where you're like, oh, look, here I am in this exact same situation over and over again. Great. How do you want to adjust your behavior in the world so that
mhm,
you get a different result for yourself?
mhm.
Because everybody else is not going to change.
Right.
Hot memo. Nobody's going to change.
Exactly.
Not for you or love or money or anything. Everybody is doing exactly what they want to do and exactly the way they want to do it, more or less, in the same way that you're doing the way you want to do it. So I think looking at that narrative, and one of the things I recommend in the book, and this is really fun, particularly if you're kind of an artsy person, but even if you're not an artsy person, it's even more fun, which is take 90 seconds
Yeah.
and just a piece of scrap paper. I like to use index cards, but whatever you got. Set your timer for 90 seconds and just draw yourself a doodle of how you're feeling stuck.
Mhm.
Like, and what is it? Is it about money? Is it about a relationship? Is it about your business? Is it about confusion and not knowing what to do, too many choices, whatever it is? Just draw what that looks like. It's not about making art. Stick figure is fine. Ballpoint pen is fine. Nobody's ever going to see this, right? But something about taking how you're feeling and putting it on paper
Mhm.
allows you to literally have a new perspective on it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And it allows you to sort of articulate to yourself, like, wow, I drew me sort of laying dead under a big boulder called money. Like, wow, that's intense. Like, no wonder I feel sort of crushed and oppressed. And yeah, okay, interesting. Good to think about. Um, and then maybe I'll turn the index card over or grab a new piece of scrap paper and spend another 90 seconds trying how would I like it to feel?
Mhm.
How would I like my relationship with money to feel? How would I like my relationship with my calendar to feel or my relationship with this person? What what could I imagine it could look like? And again, just to draw that stick figures, shapes, colors, whatever. Um, and like, oh, now I notice it's me and like actually that the thing that was the boulder now kind of looks like a giant balloon. Like, oh, that's kind of fun. Yes, I'd like to feel sort of uplifted and buoyant. And what do balloons make me think of? Like fun and carnivals. Well, how could I add some of that feeling?
Yes.
So it's not even so much of like, what do I need to do differently? But how could I feel differently
Mhm.
so that I break free of these habitual patterns and stories,
Mhm.
see new opportunities where maybe I wouldn't have seen it before because I had this thought of like, it has to be hard and it has to be heavy and it has to be, difficult for me. Well, if I'm going to go at it from a clown, or the idea of a clown, or the idea of a child, or the idea of it, my business is like a day at the fair.
Yes.
Well, what does that say to me? And how might I approach that
Right.
differently?
Well, and extrapolating, because I'm on the second round of listening to the audiobook, and going through the written version of it as well, because doing both at the same time is powerful, I've found. Um, um, One of the things that you talk about, and we could go on all day about this and a lot of the insights, but this one I thought was particularly insightful and helpful when you talked about overwhelm and how it often seems like an outside problem, but really it's an inside problem because so many people like to hold on to, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm, busy, etc., etc. So what do you mean it's an inside problem?
Yeah, it does seem like it's the circumstances, right? But we know it's not, because then you finally get that free day that you've been waiting for and you still don't do the thing, right? So, or we think, well, when the kids leave, or when end of summer, or after the holidays, when this happens, when that happens, then I'll
Yeah.
have the time and brain space to do this. And it actually, that's not the way this works. That's a lie. And one of the important things, entrepreneurship, again, greatest tool for personal development of all time, because every time you're stuck, you're telling yourself a lie, and you get to ask yourself, what lie am I believing today?
Yes. Yeah.
What monster has crawled out under the bed today for me to deal with and manage? And this myth of like, oh no, there's going to be some better time in the future. No, there's not.
Hmm.
No, there's not. And we also know that overwhelm is not an outside problem, because when we look at people who are in positions in which they were habitually overwhelmed, like people who are first responders, people who work in emergency rooms, people um, who, but I was an improviser for a long time. A lot of people find that experience, just walking out on stage with nothing
Hmm.
to invent a scene, they would find that overwhelming. I was interviewed on the local news not too long ago, and the broadcaster said, oh, she said, like when we're covering a story and it's breaking news or something tragic and terrible has happened. I said, right. So
Yeah.
those are overwhelming circumstances, but that person is not overwhelmed, right? That broadcaster's not overwhelmed. She's just doing her job.
Right.
That person at the emergency room is not overwhelmed. They're doing their job.
Mm.
Um, so it's clearly can't be the circumstances. It has to be what's happening inside of your mind. So the good news about that is it's a problem that's 100% within your control. So what are you allowing to swamp you? What are you allowing to overwhelm you? If something is, I think of overwhelm like a wave crashing over you. And I don't know if this happened to you when you were a kid, but when I was swimming in the ocean and you get tumbled by a wave and you don't even know which way is up, it's
I'm
scary,
an adult. Yeah.
right? That's the feeling I think of when I think of overwhelm, of like blah, 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 I'm sort of drowning and spinning at the same
Yeah.
time. And understand like, okay, this is not the world doing this to me. This is me doing this to me. So what am I resisting? What am I resenting? What am I not being honest with myself about? What is there a simpler way? Is there a more me way? Is there, what powerful questions can I be asking myself so that this is not my chronic state?
Yes. Well, and I do that to myself through my to-do lists and
Mm,
making the to-do list shoulds and have tos when most of them are not, because if they don't happen, nothing changes, right? And or is not worse or devastated because of it. And it's a lot about the pressure I put on myself about this arbitrary list that I've made up, and
yeah.
really understanding that I have done that. I'm the one who wrote it down. I'm the one who put the shoulds on it. I'm the one who put the timelines on it, most of which are totally unrealistic, right? And there's a payoff for it. And that's the other important part of it for me
Mhm.
is what's the payoff for getting stuck? What's the payoff for this sense of overwhelm and, kind of righteousness about busy or whatever may be going on? Those are the
Mhm.
kinds of things that you delve into in the book in a lovely way. And by the way, for those of you who are listening who are what you would identify as ADHD, or your phrase, which I love, neurospicy,
Mhm.
gifted or highly creative, maybe highly sensitive people, Sam has a beautiful way of being able to speak to to you and how you think and process in a way that's really applicable and you feel understood and seen because she relates to that. And if you're not, if you're one of those list checking boomers who is all about system and process and your very left brain and so forth, it is still a valuable book and person to connect with because she also gets that side of things and how to apply the concepts for you in a way that you can do. And it takes a certain degree of willingness to shift towards your creativity, to be willing to do the 90-second doodle, to not think, oh, well, that's stupid, to just do it and try it and let yourself explore those other aspects and ways of being and doing that can give you insights or freedom or just more fun in the day. This 15-minute method, it sounds simple and is about a whole profound level of self-love, permission to do it differently, permission to not have to have it all and do it all and be it all. Like there is so many lovely levels to this, Sam. So how can people get the book and how can they connect with you?
Thank you so much for saying that, Jeanette. That means the world to me. I can't tell you. So I so appreciate your kindness. Yeah, you can find me at therealsambennett.com. And what you should do, if you want some advice, is go there and then whatever the opt-in is, like just join my email list because that's really how I sort of communicate with everybody is through email. Like I try to remember to post things on socials, but I don't always. And social goes by so fast, it's
Yeah.
easy to miss. So hop on the email list. And most people find it to be a very fun experience. I've won awards for my email marketing. So especially also if you are an entrepreneur and you're thinking about, gee, does email marketing really work? Please get on my list and see how I do it. Cause I think, again, I do it a little differently than a lot of people do. And I love it. I love email marketing. So, that's one thing. And then you can find me on all the socials at the real Sam Bennett. My team keeps threatening to make the fake Sam Bennett, right? Which has to be me with a glass of scotch going like, don't do anything. Nobody cares.
Which is at times also the real Sam Bennett.
Which is at times also the real Sam Bennett. That's 100% correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you can buy the book wherever you like to get books from. It should be available at your local bookstores. So your independent bookstore can order it for you. It's Barnes and Noble in the US. It's on Audible if you like the audio version. I did the narration myself, and that was a lot of fun. So,
yeah. And there's lots of great stories in there. You talk a lot about all of your learnings from having long haul COVID and your journey in the creative arts and so forth. It's a fascinating, I have been told many, 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 many times that I need to write my autobiography because I've had a very interesting life. And in my head, I automatically go, well, it's interesting to me because it happened to me, but of what benefit is it to anyone else? I think autobiographies are for famous people, right? And then someone told me or used the phrase instructional autobiography. And
mhm.
I was like, oh, now that's interesting. Can I make it about them? Can I make these lessons of value for other people? That then is like, okay, then the stories become the vehicle for the learning, and that interests me. And that's part of what your books are. They are, business books and instructional books and so forth. But in a way, they are also instructional autobiographies because you share so much about who you are and how you are in the world, which is part of what makes them really different and delightful. So do connect with Sam. You also do coaching programs, etc. What else do you do besides being an author that people could and should reach out to you for?
I do. I run every year. I run an international retreat, a visioning retreat for women at midlife and beyond. In a couple of weeks, we're headed to Majorca. We
Oh,
we did Belize 2 years in a row. We did Crete last year, and then this year we're going to Majorca, which is just amazing.
oh
Um,
man, I wish I'd known about that. I should read more of your emails. I am on your list, and you were one of the few that I do actually read the emails, but I missed that. Okay.
It's okay. Not a problem. Yeah, so I do that. I do teach. I also have been getting more and more into book coaching actually and helping people create both their books and their book proposals, which is sort of the business plan for your book. It's the kind of thing that nobody really wants to do, but it's absolutely essential if you're going to get your book out in the world and read, whether you're going to self-publish or hybrid publish
And
or
I was just going to say,
traditional publishing.
do you have a piece of advice around self versus hybrid versus publisher?
It's a very personal decision. I don't think there's a right way. I think it really depends on you and what you want out of your book. What do you want your book to do in the world? Who is it for? And what kind of person are you? You know, I, I have friends who are like, no, no, I must have complete creative control over the cover. I must,
Yeah.
I must check everything myself. I'm not content with handing it off. I'm like, okay, well then you want to self-publish. That's great. Good to know. Um, I've really loved the collaborative aspect of traditional publishing. I didn't know how I would feel about being edited particularly, but it turns out I love it. Um, finally there's somebody else in the world who's taking your work as seriously as you are and gives a shit as much as you do and wants it to be good as much as you do. And
Yeah.
sometimes they say things that give you notes so you're like, well, that hurts my feelings, or I don't think that's right, or whatever. But then
Yes.
now we get to go to a point of inquiry and say, okay, wow, that's making me really uncomfortable. What's
Yeah.
going on there, right? Hi, again, monsters out from under the bed. Oh, look, I'm bothered by that. Interesting. Um, there's a myth, I think, that says, oh, if you get traditionally published, then you don't have to do the marketing, that they'll do the marketing for you. No, no, kitten, you're doing all the marketing no matter what. I mean, yes, they will help you
Yes.
some, and some publishers are better at it than others. Um,
Yeah. I was
but
going to
even if
say
they're the
your
best in the world, they're only going to do it for 3 months because then they've got the next crop of books coming. So it's really, you're the one selling the books. So get really comfortable with that idea.
Yes, absolutely. And your publisher is, I think, more collaborative than I have seen many publishers to be. And I suspect that's because you've cultivated the relationship that you generate between the two of you, that it's a very give and take kind of situation. And even then, you're still responsible for all your sales, right? They help you with some things, but yeah. All right,
Yeah.
just a little segue there, because I know that book publishing and getting books out there is part of your forte. Um, Okay, so we're going to wrap up with a couple of pieces of advice coming back to our specific audience. Having been, because the two markets that we have that I predominantly serve are the getting goings, people who
Mhm.
are transitioning from a lifetime of employment perhaps into entrepreneurship, or they've been stay-at-home mom and now they're going back into the workforce because they need to generate some revenue, or they just have more to give. And the keeping goings, those who have been entrepreneurs for a while, they're older now and maybe tired, maybe have lost sight of their purpose or their why, might just be resenting the I still need to work, whatever, wherever they're at, they're keeping going. Or they, like me, have a new lease on life and are super passionate about the next chapter. Um, you're in the keeping going category. You've been doing this for a long time. What advice do you have for those who are the keeping goings in terms of what keeps you going?
I have a voice in my head that says, Samantha, do you want to help these people or not?
Mm.
And that's what does it. Like when I don't want to make a sales call, when I don't want to do another thing, when I'm feeling like, but do I believe that what I do helps people? And I believe that it does, and I have a lot of evidence that it does. Um, and then it's like, well, then that's what you got to do.
So on those days where the answer is no, no, today I really don't, then what
Yeah.
do you do?
Well, then you give yourself the freedom that entrepreneurs have and don't.
Mhm.
I can't believe how many people are like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur for the freedom, and then they chain themselves to their desk for 14 hours a day. It's like, isn't that what you were trying to escape? Like,
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be done a certain way. There is no
no,
way to do this. Um,
that's right.
and for the getting goings who may be hesitant about, but can I, should I, how do I, all of those various questions, because a lot of the advice in your book is how to get it done in simple ways. Besides getting the book, what do you recommend? That
Absolutely. Step one for sure, get the book.
for sure, that's a given.
That's
Once
a
they
given.
do that, then what would be your advice for the getting goings who are really struggling with the, I'm older, I'm done, society has told me I'm done, etc. What
Mhm.
would you say to them?
I have a couple of thoughts coming to mind. Uh, One is triple your prices and offer a money back guarantee,
Okay.
right? Just do that.
Okay.
Just
I
do that.
love that advice. I'm writing that one down. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we're double, at least double them, you know, at least double your prices and offer, and then just offer a money back guarantee. If I haven't helped you, then I don't want your money. So fair, right? Um, I think there's a thing of turning the but into an and, right? I'm XYZ age and I want to help people. I'm exhausted and I feel the need to do this work. I'm intimidated by technology and I really want to get the word out about what I do. Right. And make it part of your story. Like, you know, oh, I'm a health coach and I'm 100 pounds overweight. Fantastic. That's a great story. You know, I've had 14 careers up to now. The thing I love about being an entrepreneur and the thing I love about being a writer is I get to bring all of my experience with me. Everything I learned delivering flowers in Los Angeles, everything I learned working as a barista, everything I learned as an executive assistant, everything I learned. I one time had a job flying back and forth between Burbank Airport and San Francisco Airport because there was this rich guy who was like trying to game the point system. I have no idea. It was mysterious to me then, and it still is. I'm like, I've had a million different gigs,
Yes.
and I'm able, and now with my own business, I'm able to pull from all of that. Like none of my life experience is going to waste. It's
Yes.
all part of what I have to offer and how I think about what I do. So to say, you know, this is my sixth career, yes. And you may have nine more. We don't know yet.
Yes.
The last thing I really want to say, especially to the getting starting people,
Yeah.
is just go sell something.
Mm.
Sell 10, sell 20, sell 100. You don't need a logo. You don't need a website. You don't need your sales copy. You don't need your target market. You don't need all the crap that you've probably overeducated yourself
Mhm.
on all the things you need. Like I said, a lot of my early success came from the fact that I had no idea what I was doing.
Mhm.
So I just did it the way I built my first website on iWeb. Remember iWeb? Like that's how bargain basement the whole thing was. Um, so really, and the only thing that matters in entrepreneurship is sales, is revenue. So go out there and prove to yourself that somebody wants to buy the thing you have. And then you can worry about having the 3-day event, doing the affiliate offer, writing the book, having the article on Medium, all those other things that are just bells and whistles.
Mhm.
The main thing is the main thing.
Yes. Okay, that is probably the most brilliant piece of advice you will ever get from any coach anywhere on entrepreneurship. Bar none, been doing this 40 years. And seriously, if you do and hear nothing else than that, that is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, because that's where that came from, is the assimilation of those hundreds of thousands of dollars and hours invested in learning what matters and how to be effective and how to take all this growth and these experiences. And you're right, it is the best personal growth course in the world, um, and distill it down into doable chunks. And one of those doable chunks is go sell something, and the other is take 15 minutes and go order the book.
I like the way you think.
Thank you so much for being here, Sam. I truly love and adore you. I appreciate what you put into the world. I appreciate that it makes my world better, my clients' world better, lots of people's worlds better. And I love how you make it so just real and basic and uncomplicated, rather than a lot of the fluff and noise that people hear and see in the expertpreneur world. So please do check out Sam's offerings and her books, all of her books, and her just yeah, get yummy with this woman. She's a yummy person to be with. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, everyone. I know this is a long episode, but frankly, I could continue on for another hour. I'm pretty sure I made Sam late for something or other, but I am so grateful to you for taking all this time to answer all these bazillion questions. Everyone was valuable. Thank you for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I am a big advocate of don't just listen, go implement. So what's one or two things that you took from this, besides you're going to go buy the book, that you are going to do an action, go put it in your calendar, do something about it so that you get value. And especially here, there was so many yummy things I wrote down that I'm going to be posting on and adjusting and turning my course, shifting my course, how I'm doing it based on some of the things you've said. etc. So go implement, get results, have fun with this, and be the bodacious difference that only you can be. Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.